The Haitian Revolution against the French colonists took place between 1791 all the way through 1804. After the failure of the French expedition of 1803, General Jean-Jacques Dessalines proclaimed Haiti's independence. On the 8th of October 1804, Dessalines was crowned emperor in Cape Haiti under the name of Jacques I. It didn't take long before some generals, ambitious to seize power, organized a plot against Emperor Dessalines, who was finally assassinated by the men of General Alexander Pétion in an ambush on the 17th of October 1806 at Pont Rouge, at the entrance of Port-au-Prince. Dessalines was betrayed by one of his battalion chiefs. Afterwards, his generals marched to the capital, abolished the empire, and expelled the imperial family, which forced them to go into exile. Alexander Pétion proclaimed the republic and became president of southern Haiti. Another general, Henri Christophe, broke away and took control of northern Haiti, where he established a separatist government, the State of the North. He officially became president of the Republic of the North and declared it a lifelong position. That wasn't enough for him, so Henri Christophe planned to legitimize his power as Dessalines had done by the re-establishment of the Haitian Empire. Haiti was divided, which caused tension to arise between the Haitians of the North and the South. This led to a civil war. The tension with the Southerners was further intensified when Henry succeeded in his establishment of the Kingdom of the North after several battles that caused him to secure the borders of his new state. Once some stability was secured, Christophe established a constitutional monarchy with himself as monarch. He became King of Haiti on the 28th of March 1811 under the name of Henry I. On the 2nd of June 1811, he was crowned by Grand Archbishop Jean-Baptiste Joseph Brel. The Kingdom of Haiti was established again. This was Haiti's second attempt at a monarchical rule after Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the first emperor of Haiti. The king held the bulk of power. However, he would also be assisted by a cabinet of 6 ministers, the foremost of whom was the chancellor appointed by the king. When he became king, Henry appointed Joseph Rouanet as chancellor and also granted him the title of Duc de Morine. Rouanet died in 1812 and was replaced by Julien Prévost, who served as chancellor until the fall of the regime. The power of the king was much higher than that of the chancellor. The monarch was the true head of the government, and the chancellor only his personal advisor. With an edict dated the 5th of April 1811, King Henry proclaimed a noble class whose titles and everything that came with it were hereditary. This nobility system was largely inspired by British institutions, but it also showed some French influence. For instance, like Napoleon's nobility, it did not include marquis or viscount. 4 princes, 8 dukes, 22 counts, 37 barons, and 14 chevaliers were part of the noble class. Henri built 6 castles, 8 palaces, including the Sanssouci Palace, the Royal Chapel of Millau, and the Citadelle La Vrière, built to protect the kingdom from possible French invasions during his reign. The king used agrarian capitalism to develop the island's economy. As a result, the North accumulated wealth faster than the South. Work on the Sanssouci Palace was completed in 1813. In addition to the main body, a chapel with a large cupola was also built, as well as numerous annexes, barracks, a hospital, ministries, a printing shop, a mint, a school, an art academy, to name a few. King Henry, his wife, Queen Marie-Louise, and the children, including the Crown Prince Victor Henri Christophe, lived in the palace, along with their staff and the various councillors and ministers until the fall of the monarchy on the 18th of October 1820. The king owned 19 other plantations and had other residences and forts built throughout his kingdom, including, as I already mentioned, the La Ferrière Citadel, which was located a few kilometers from the palace and armed with 200 cannons. The geographical location of this royal residence and the citadel was chosen for strategic purposes. It was both central and elevated, as well as concealed and perfectly autonomous. Furthermore, it allowed the sovereign to control his territory and to protect himself from his internal and external enemies, including the French, who still sought to retake their former colony. In fact, the French made an attempt landing on Haiti in 1814 through 1815 as ordered by King Louis XVIII. In 1818, after Pétion's death, the president of the South, it was his military aide Jean-Pierre Boyer who succeeded him as the head of the South. King Henri then proposed to Boyer to join him in exchange for the title of Marshal, but as expected, he refused. He even sent several spies to different cities in the north to stir up the population. At first, this attempt seemed to have no effect on the northern population. But after a last battle fought on the north-south border, in which the king ordered to shoot all the southern officers who were prisoners, republican ideas circulated more and more in the kingdom. Boyer then sent several great orators from the south to the north, with the aim of creating a revolutionary movement. Moreover, in 1820, the harvests were bad and taxes were increasing, a situation favorable to revolutions. During the summer of 1820, several riots broke out in the north, and the government then launched a violent repression. As for the king, he suffered a stroke in August 1820, which left him partially paralyzed, and this considerably weakened his health and disturbed his thinking. In September 1820, a new insurrection broke out in Cape Haiti, provoking an almost general revolt in the country. The revolution quickly broke out in the north, the richest city of the kingdom. Cape Haiti fell under revolutionary control. In October, the revolutionaries marched on Millau Sanssouci Palace. Suffering from paralysis and seeing that the situation was slipping away from him, the king committed suicide on the 8th of October 1820 by shooting himself in the heart with a silver bullet during a mass in a church he had built. He is buried in the Citadel La Ferrière. After his death, his son, Crown Prince Victor Henri, was proclaimed king by his followers under the name of Henry II. However, Millau was seized by the insurgents and the new king was hanged on the 18th of October 1820. Queen Marie-Louise and her daughters went into exile in Italy. Boyer took advantage of the revolution to send his army present on the border to the center of the northern kingdom. On October the 20th, Boyer had imposed himself by arms and proclaimed that the North would be joined with the South on the 26th of October. Finally, he proclaimed himself president for life and then supreme chief of the whole island. After the episode of the reign of Henri Christophe, no other true monarchy arose in Haiti until Faustin Soulouque, Faustin I, between 1849 and 1859. Soulouque was an enthusiastic Foudouzan, maintaining a staff of Bokors and Mambos, and gave the stigmatized Voodoo religion semi-official status, which was openly practiced in Port-au-Prince. Soulouque declared the Second Empire of Haiti in 1849 after being proclaimed emperor under the name Faustin I and formally crowned in 1852. One such case was that of Pierre Not Alexis, grandson of the former King Henri, who took power in 1902. An authoritarian, he declared himself president for life and even ended up proposing a new constitutional monarchy with himself as king. But this project provoked a last revolt that turned into a new revolution and forced North Alexis to go into exile in 1908. He died 2 years later in 1910 at the age of 89.